4. Humanistic Buddhism and Literati. Since ancient times, poets and scholars in China always held prestigious social standings due to the influence of their writings and opinions. With a single brush stroke, they had the power to bring down entire armies. This influence has prevailed even beyond their time. The works of poets and scholars throughout the eras are key reasons as to Buddhism's success. Through them, it was able to harmonize Confucian thoughts and become integral to Chinese culture. Buddhism's profound philosophy and its close connection with reality not only satisfied their pursuit of the truth and life's numerous questions, it also inspired these writers and intellectuals into broadening their minds, leading to great creativity. One might say that under the influence of profound Buddhist teachings, these poets and scholars were thus able to create timeless classics. Popular Chinese literature such as Gan Bao's In Search of Spirits, Hua Cheng'en's Journey to the West, Cao Zuoqing's Dream of the Red Chamber, and Liu Yi's The Travels of Old Decrepit all exhibit Buddhist reflections. Not only have these literary masterpieces introduced Chinese literature to the world, they also aided in the spread humanistic Buddhism. As Buddhism enriched the minds of literary writers, they in turn contributed to the dissemination of the Dharma. Among the 8 great prose masters of the Tang and Song dynasty, Han Yu and Zhu had severely criticized Buddhism. However, their mindset drastically changed after making the acquaintance of Chan Master Dadian and Chan Master Mingzhou. Realizing the ignorance of their past behavior, they repented sincerely and sought refuge in the Dharma. Others nurtured a close affiliation with humanistic Buddhism, namely, Tao Yuanming, Xiaolin Jiun, Wang Wei, Liu Zongyuan, Bai Jai. 772-846, Wang Anshi, Su Shi, and Wang Tingjian. Markedly, Wang Wei, Bai Jai, Su Shi, and Wang Tingjian even took refuge. The intimate relationship between Buddhism and literary writers has endured till today. Some of these stories are mentioned as follows. 1. National constitutions based on Buddhist thought. Zhao Tong, also known as Crown Prince Xiaoming, was the eldest son of Emperor Wu of Liang. Compassionate, kind, and extremely intelligent, he grew up under the influence of his father's devotion to Buddhism. Not only did he strictly observe the Bodhisattva precepts, he was also well learned in Buddhist texts and teachings. Some of his works include Understanding the Two Truths and 32 Rules of the Diamond Sutra. Soon after Prince Xiaoming's death at the young age of 31, without ever assuming the throne, Liu Xie, an acquaintance to the prince, took refuge in Master Sengyu. He assisted the master in compiling the 15 fascicle, a collection of records on the emanation of the Chinese Tripitaka, which became the renowned catalogue of the Chinese translation of the Buddhist Tripitaka. In addition, he also wrote the 10 fascicle Literary Mind and Carved Dragon, listed as one of the 2 most prestigious critiques of Chinese literature alongside Zhang Rong's 467-519, A Critique of Poetry. Eastern Jin Dynasty poet Tao Yuanming, unwilling to relinquish his dignity for 5 bushels of grain, retreated to lead a country life. His poetic composition was natural, beautiful, and alive with Buddhist sentiments. For example, glistening white moon in the clouds, resplendent flowers among the leaves, are such but transient beauties. What shall become of them soon? Treating impermanence with such emotionality, the influence of Buddhism on him is clear. On one of his frequent visits to Master Hui Yuan at Donglan Temple on Mount Lu, he crossed paths with Taoist priest Lu Ziajing. Upon seeing off his guests, Hui Yuan almost broke his self-imposed confinement by crossing the Tiger Creek, giving rise to the legend of the 3 laughing men at Tiger Creek. Another close acquaintance of Huiyuan's was Xiaolin, a pious Buddhist and author of Inscriptions of Buddha's Shadow. Inspired by Master Hsing's theory on gradual and immediate enlightenment, Xia composed Discerning the Truth to expound on the meanings of gradual and sudden. Moreover, having learned of Venerable Rui's 355-439 knowledge in Sanskrit, Xia visited him at Wei Temple. There he acquired a profound understanding of the different meanings carried in different voices. Those were the days when the Mahabharanirvana Sutra had just reached China. The short and concise text, in addition to strange and difficult writing, made it difficult for beginners to understand. He therefore revised the text with Huiyan as well as Haiguan, and introduced the 36-fascicle Southern edition of the Mahabharanirvana Sutra. This enabled wide dissemination of the Nirvana teachings as well as the theories of gradual and immediate enlightenment. As a poet, Xiaolin contributed tremendously to the spread of Buddhism. 2. Persecutors inspired by Chan masters to repent. Han Yu was the foremost of the 8 great prose masters of the Tang and Song dynasties. His prose held the distinction of reversing the literary decline of 8 dynasties. He advocated that writings should serve the purpose of carrying the way, and critiqued Buddhism as well as Taoism. Later, when he wrote his famous memorial on bone relics of the Buddha, he was demoted to a provincial governor in Chaozhou. There, he visited Chan Master Dadian who, in deep meditative concentration, did not respond. An attendant, standing nearby, whispered into the master's ear, "First you move with meditative concentration, then you shall shake with wisdom." Upon hearing this, Han Yu replied with admiration, "I have now received the message from your attendant." From then on, Han Yu continued to practice meditation and visited teachers. He also repented his past wrongdoings and became a pious supporter of Buddhism. Zhu, another opponent of Buddhism, received acclaim for his work on principles. Chan Master Mingjiao Kisong wrote auxiliary teachings to refute Zhuang's work by advocating the integration of Buddhist, Taoist, and Confucian thoughts. His work transformed Zhuang's perspective, who exclaimed, "How could he be such an outstanding monastic?" He made a formal visit to the Chan master to further his inquiries. Afterwards, under the influence of Chan Master Zhuang, he finally realized the profoundness of the Dharma and turned to Buddhism in sincere repentance for his previous behavior. Thereafter, his works frequently contained admonitions for the practice of virtuous deeds. He also made acquaintances with many Buddhist masters. A founder of the classical prose movement, Liu Zongyuan grew up as a devoted Buddhist and assisted in the spread of its concepts. His work God of the Eastern Sea is a commentary on the Pure Land practices. In addition, a large number of plaque inscriptions such as that of Huineng the sixth patriarch have been attributed to him. Known as the 3 Literati of the Su family, Suxun along with his 2 sons Sushi and Suche, 1039 to 1112, are counted among the 8 great prose masters of the Tang and Song dynasties. All members of the family were followers of Buddhism, despite Suxun having a scholarly lineage in Confucianism. In fact, he was a close acquaintance of Chan Master Yuan Tongjun and Boyue Weijian. Though extremely talented, Sushi nevertheless struggled through his career as an official and had been exiled several times. For this reason, his poems are full of Buddhist attainments. His most famous story was that of Chan Master Foyan, who had ridiculed him for being the allegedly unmovable one who was blown across the river by a fart. During his visit to Chan Master Changsong at Donglan Temple on Mount Lu, having gained some attainment conversing with the master, he wrote the following poem, which later became the popular Chan verse. "The sounds of the creeks are voices spoken by your broad and long tongue. The mountains are none but manifestations of your pure body. Of the 84,000 verses that we hear in the night, how are we to teach them to others in later days? Furthermore, the summoning words in the Yogacara offering service was also composed by Sushi, in which his compassion for living beings in the six realms and spirit of equality are certainly characteristics of humanistic bodhisattvas. 3. Literary and poetic creations to express state of Buddhist attainment. Also listed among the 8 great prose masters of the Tang and Song dynasties was Wang Anshi, once praised by Ouyang Zhu in his poem, Above All Verses from the Imperial Academy, excelling the personnel department's all-time works. "'Tis time for this old man to retire now, because no one will ever surpass this man. He took refuge in the 3 jewels at a young age, and was a close acquaintance of Chan Master Jiang Sanjai Hai. As a noble prime minister, he often spoke of the Dharma to intellectuals. Under the tremendous influence of Buddhism, he believes that there are no unchallengeable authorities nor unchangeable rules. What is most important is to possess the right perspective of reality." All 8 great prose masters of the Tang and Song were demoted at one time or another, experienced great bitterness in their lives. When renowned Tang dynasty poet Bai Jai visited Chan Master Miao Dalan, who lived in a tree, he exclaimed, "Chan Master, it is too dangerous to live in a tree." "Honorable Chief, you are the one who is in danger," replied the Chan Master. "I am a standing minister, what danger can there be?" asked Bai Jai disgruntled. "When sparks intertwine, ignitions are endless. How can you say that there is no danger?" Having somewhat understood his intentions, Bai Jai continued, "What is the essence of the Dharma? To cease all evil, practice all good, and purify your own mind. Such is the teaching of all Buddhas," recited the Chan Master. Very disappointed, Bai Jai replied, "This is too easy even for a 3-year-old child." Sure, what is understandable to a 3-year-old toddler is but impossible to an 80-year-old man. Fully inspired, Bai Jai thus took refuge under Chan Master Daolan. In fact, he vowed to dedicate his literary talent to the use of praising the Buddha's practice and to spread the Dharma. In his late years, he was fully committed to chanting Buddha's name, and composed a verse on chanting the Buddha. At the age of 70+1. Poetry is what I no longer read or write. Reading too strenuous for the eye, while doing good deeds too much of a physical act. How can the mind then pass time? Amitabha is what I simply chant. I chant Amitabha while walking. I chant Amitabha while sitting. Even when buried in matters, never forget Amitabha for a chant. Let those intellects ridicule me, and most of you skeptics of Amitabha. So what if you are an intellect? So what if I ain't? I urge all living beings in the Dharma realm to come together and chant Amitabha. If one seeks liberation from the cycle of rebirth, to chant Amitabha would be an essential act. 4. The family legacy, unshakable faith. Northern Song dynasty poets such as Lu Mangzeng and Fan Zhongyan both lived in Buddhist temples at some point in their lives. Being the first scholar to top the imperial examination of the Song dynasty, Lu assumed the post of prime minister to emperors Song Tazong and Song Zhenzong 968-1022 on 3 occasions, and was known as the eminent minister of his time. He took residence in a Buddhist temple before he rose to success. 20 years later, in gratitude, he returned to the temple. Each morning he would pay respect to Buddha, praying that, "Let only pious believers of the 3 jewels be born into my family. May generations and generations of my lineage always be prosperous and supporters of the Dharma." This sense of gratitude and unflinching belief in the 3 jewels are the most valuable family legacy seen in humanistic Buddhism. Having sworn to either be a minister of eminence or a doctor of greatness, and to regard as one's top concern the state's affairs, and place as one's last goal one's own enjoyments. Fan Zhongyan spent his days studying in a Buddhist temple. After rising to fame, he made acquaintances with Buddhist masters such as Cheng, Yuanyu. Subsequently, he became well attained as a pupil of Chan Master Haiju from Lanjia province. In his lifetime devotion to the Three Jewels, he built temples to establish monastic communities everywhere he went, and even turned his own residence into Tianping Temple, and provided free farmlands to help his people. Known as the Poetic Buddha, Wang Wei was a pious Buddhist who observed vegetarianism. He was so devoted that he even bore the courtesy name Moji, which was inspired by the name Waimoji. Having taken refuge and learned how to meditate under his Shen Hui, he also sought instruction in Chan masters Daoguang, Puji and Yifu. The beauty and delicate style of his poetry also held a strong sense of Chen. For example, in his deer enclosure, a secluded mountain with no one in sight, yet talking voices echo across the space. Sunlight reaches into the deepest of woods as reflections on the ground's green moss. His depiction of the subtle spread of sunlight and an empty mountain at nightfall is a reflection of the Buddhist mindset of quietude and impermanence. Moreover, Wang Wei also had a mother who was a pious Buddhist. After her death, in order to commemorate her, Wang turned his house into a temple. He then spent the rest of his life as a monastic, diligently chanting and reading the sutras every day. Upon the final moment of his life, he even foretold his time of death and sent out notices to his friends. 5. Writings are to carry the way and deliver humanity. Song Dynasty calligraphy master Huang Tingjian also shared special affinities with Buddhism. A prominent poet, his verses were widely circulated. One day, Huang visited Chan Master Yuan Tongthas, who severely criticized him. "Are you no better than these convolutedly trivial writings of yours?" There was an artist named Li Bashi who specialized in painting horses. He always portrayed and imitated the movements of a horse. The Chan master warned him that if he continued, the chances of him being reborn as a horse would be extremely high. After, Li Bashi threw away his paintbrushes and never painted horses again. Having heard of this, Huang ridiculed the Chan master and said, "Are you going to warn me against being reborn as a horse too? Your speeches of flattery have enticed the minds of many. I am afraid rebirth as a horse is too minor a consequence. You are more likely to fall into hell," replied Thasyu. Taken aback by this, Huang immediately repented himself. Subsequently, having also been inspired and taught by brilliant minds such as Chan Master Lanjian Hsing, Huang became thoroughly reinvented and enhanced his knowledge of Buddhism. My flesh is the flesh of sentient beings. Though different in name, the essence remains the same. We all share in having the same nature. We merely vary in bodily form. If I leave others to suffer in pain, for the sweet and tender are what I want, there is no need to await Yama's judgment. I myself should already know the cost of such deeds. In his most renowned poem, one can clearly sense the Buddhist spirit of respecting all forms of life. In the later years of his life, he built an abode in Piaban and focused on his Pure Land practices. His poems were very popular among monastics from the 5 mountains of the Muromachi period, and have had tremendous influence on the study of Chinese literature in Japan. When it is said that literature transcends borders, it is undoubtedly true. Literature provides us with insights into the way human emotions and thoughts are expressed. A great work of literature is not merely beautiful, moving words or has an interesting plot. It also needs to embody ideals and principles such as morality, truthfulness, virtue, and beauty that will inspire as well as cultivate human beings. The saying, "Writings should serve the purpose of carrying the way," means that words must carry the mission of teaching and transforming human minds. That Dharma can be timeless, omnipresent, and inspire human minds is because the literary works of great thinkers have been invaluable instruments in spreading the Dharma. Dedication of merits. May kindness, compassion, joy and equanimity pervade all worlds. May we cherish and build affinities to benefit all beings. May Chan, Pure Land and precepts inspire equality and patience. May our humility and gratitude give rise to great vows.